Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well, that you're having a lovely week so far. My name's Emily and welcome to MemilyMakes. Okay, let's get started. Today I am doing the first part of my two-parter mini series, I suppose. But if you have seen my weekly podcasts, you will know that I am away for 2 weeks in June. So I needed something to fill the gap, basically. And I thought, what a nice thing to do. I hope it's a nice thing to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of take a trip through memory lane via my knitting needles for part 1, which is today. And then in 2 weeks' time, I will do a journey through my crochet hooks, which are to my left. Knitting needles to my right, crochet hooks to my left. I'm going to do this in one, but it's just to make sure that I have content for you. So you've got a video every week. But today is knitting needles. So buckle up. It's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm just looking at all my knitting needles. It's not as adventurous as I'd hoped. But to start with, my journey with knitting needles started when I was a very small child. My mom taught me how to knit, and yeah, I've done it on and off throughout the years. Vivid memory of my nan on my dad's side. She was a very prolific knitter, and she used to make a lot of Christmas decorations. If you watched my Vlogmas series, Vlogmas 2020, not 2020, Vlogmas 2022, you will have seen the book, the pattern book that I got that my nan used to have and she used to knit out of. So yeah, that was quite a nice memory lane there. But that is how a brief overview of my actual knitting journey and my crochet journey as well, because it's kind of linked. I've always done the two at the same time. But with knitting, I do tend to lean more towards knitting. I don't know why. It's just something that I enjoy perhaps a little bit more. I'm trying to change that. I'm working on it. But in terms of knitting needles, I started off, I haven't got any here unfortunately. I did look high and low for them, but I'm pretty sure when I cleared my craft trolley, I actually got rid of them all because I used to have, it would help if I explained what they were. So traditional knitting needles. So you've got the needle, and one end is the tip of the needle and the other end is the stopper, basically a little stopper, and it used to say the name, it used to say the size of the needle, and you got 2 of them. So 2 traditional knitting needles. I used to have a metal set that I got from very cheap off Amazon, and it came in a faux leather roll up, and you rolled it out and it had lift the flap and it had all the needles, many sizes, which is great. I no longer have that because I gave it to my mom. She knits still, which is great. She's picked it up again recently, which is super exciting. She uses traditional knitting needles, so I've given her what I had left of traditional knitting needles, and I used to have the pony ones as well. I think that's where I started. So unfortunately I don't have that to show you as part of my journey. But the next lot of needles that I did start buying were double pointed needles. So that would be, I'm going to show you one actually, that would be these, for example. I should have perhaps got the bigger ones. So basically they are a needle that has a tip on both ends. Cover my face because that's a bit weird. A tip on both ends, and each individual set, if you will, comes with 5 needles. So the idea of these are you have 4 needles attached to your work at one time in a sort of square, very useful for socks or sleeves on a jumper, small spaces, small circumferences, usually when working in the round. I'm sure a lot of you have seen these and have used these before. But yeah, so, oh yeah, you have the 4 attached to the work, and then you use one and you're always swapping them around as you're knitting. I used to use these prolifically for sleeves on jumpers. So when I was making my Miley sweaters, I used double pointed needles. For example, the collar of the sweaters, they were bottom up sweaters. They were very interesting construction. I highly recommend the pattern. And and it's a free pattern as well, so you know, beautiful colour work as well. And I used it on the cuffs of the sleeves, not just the cuffs of the sleeves, the sleeves, small circumferences, and I started using them on socks, I believe. I just didn't gel with it as well as I wanted, so I stopped making socks pretty early on when I started with the double pointed needles, just because I couldn't get the tension right, and the socks were taking so long because of the 4 different sections of knitting, so I didn't get on with them too well. I still have all my sets, although I don't use them anymore. If I bring this up, you might be able to see. This is a acquisition I got a couple of weeks ago, and I have actually started filling it up with stuff. So if you can see there, I'm going to try and make sure it doesn't get too much glare off my ring light. But here is where I've put all my double pointed needles. They're all in just clear plastic packets that basically keep all 5 needles of the different sizes together. Now the set I got again off Amazon. One thing that I like to do when I'm trying out new needles or crochet hooks is I like to try sets that are fairly cheap, give you a good range of sizes that will just get you going. I mean, you don't have to get the expensive stuff to start out with, but as you start building it up and you realise that you're enjoying it a lot more, it's always nice to invest a little bit more in that craft that you're enjoying. So you'll see that progression throughout my journey of my knitting needles. But yes, double pointed needles, again, they did not stay for long because I just didn't get on with them. So partway through making my Af Miley jumper, I reread the pattern and it mentioned about circular needles. Now, this was my first ever introduction to circular needles. It was back in, I think, 2017. And the only reason I remember that is, little trigger warning here, briefly. The only reason I know about the year was because that was the year that my appendix burst. Again, apologies for trigger warning. So I was in the middle of making my first ever sweater. It was my Af Miley sweater, and I was in hospital for a week. Yeah, it wasn't a great time at all. You know, it happens, unfortunately. I was extremely lucky because of my partner, and I do say this every time, that he did save my life. So yeah, if you have a tummy pain that you think, it's not great, go to the doctors, get it checked out. It doesn't cost you anything, and you know, if you can catch something early, I'm all for that. I'm definitely for that now. Before I was like, just power through, I'll be fine. But no, please, that's a little public service announcement for you. Anyway, that sweater is extremely special to me because when I came out of hospital, I was very weak. So I basically was at home. I was signed off work and I was like, well, what am I going to do? Knitting, let's just get this sweater done. So I treated myself to some circular needles. And the circular needles that I got were the Drops Basic Fixed Circular Needles. They are metal needles, and here are 2 of them. So I treated myself to all the sizes in these hooks, including all the cord lengths that the pattern recommended. So I got all the different cord lengths and the different sizes. That was very exciting to me, and it was a massive game changer for me as well. Because I'd never used circular needles before, and the idea of knitting with a cord so your knitting just stays, it was game changing for me. And my my double pointed needles were basically slowly creeping towards not being used again. So that's why I ended up with these, and I used them quite a lot, really enjoyed them. As I say, they are metal. There we go, they are metal, very plain, very simple, very budget friendly. You know, they get the job done, they're great. And I have just realised that I didn't think the sizes were on the needles. They're not on the metal part of the needles. However, the size, you might not be able to see this, but the size is where that white writing is there. That gives you the size and the length of the cord, but as you can see, it's starting to rub off, as does with a lot of circular needles and things like that. It's kind of what happens. Also with these needles, it's not a problem because it doesn't cause an obstruction as far as I'm aware, but the coating, as you can see there, the coating over the aluminium is coming away slightly, and the tips slightly. But again, it doesn't cause any problems, it doesn't cause any snagging or anything like that. It's just because of the rubbing of the two together. It's not a problem, it's fine. But yeah, those needles I really liked. They were a great segue into the world of circular needles. Right, next I discovered that you could knit socks on a circular needle. Now I have got some of those really small ones, the sock needles, the sock size needles with the really small cable. I have tried, believe me, because I love the idea of just knitting a sock constantly in the round without having to use the magic loop method, which I'll show you in a moment. But I can't get on with them. I need length. I need something for my hand to work with. I feel like I need, but then it could be a case I've not tried it enough, and I perhaps should. But I can't get on with them at the minute. Any recommendations, any tips on how to use those needles with the small, that are quite stubby, and with the small cable, greatly appreciated, because I would love to be able to knit socks just on that needle. So I did discover the magic loop method, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like on a sock that I'm working on. So here is the magic loop method. The idea is you have a set of a circular needle that has a really long cable, and you're knitting on one of them there. So I would bring this round and knit. So you've got enough cable this end to bring that through and have enough wiggle room, and there's enough cable this end to have a loop. So you're basically knitting across that, and then you'll pull the needle through and start knitting on the other side. Terrible explanation. Have a look on YouTube. There are plenty of wonderful videos on how to do this. And if you love circular needles, don't particularly like double pointed needles, highly recommend the magic loop method for knitting socks. Right, that being said, the next set of needles that I got were these. These are the Addi nickel-free premium circular needles, fixed circular again, and these are they. I bought these especially just to use for socks, and yeah, they're great. They are great, but there are two problems with these needles that I have discovered. One is that if you get a bend in the cable, it tends to stay. So as you can see, there's like this bend here. So that would be from when I'm pulling the cast on, halving the cast on and pulling the cable through. So halving the cast on, pulling it through. So I've got half the stitches here, half the stitches here. That could be why that's bent, and I've got it bent in a couple of other places too. But the worst thing about these needles that I do not like, and reason why I don't use these needles anymore, similar to the drops, but this is slightly different. Similar to the drops, the coating, I don't know if you can see that, the coating has worn away on the tip here, just there. Don't know if you can see that. There's a slightly discoloration, so we go from silver to a sort of gold colour. Is it on the other tip? It is on the other tip, so I'll show you that as well and see. There we go, you can see that much better. So that's this darker colour on the edge bit here. That is the coating of the needle that's come away. Now, that is similar to the drops, it's just pure use has just worn it away. However, with these needles, you can feel it. It's a different, it's almost like a different texture underneath this silver coating, and it catches and it just feels horrible. So that is why I don't use these needles anymore, which is a shame because I did buy them specifically just for socks, but I just can't use them because of this, the feeling of the tip. So just be aware of that. Right, the next set of needles that I got, because I thought, oh, Addi, when I bought them, they weren't worn, so I wasn't aware. But these ones are slightly different. These are the Addi It says Addy lace needles. Don't know if you can see it, with extra sharp tips. It's not very good. There we go. Addy lace needles, extra sharp tips, premium. I can't remember why I bought this one, because it's a size 3.75 millimeter, which is not a size I use, but here they are. Again, barely used, these ones. I'm not entirely sure why. I think it's probably because of the size, specific size. I probably bought them for a specific project, and thought I was having trouble with this cable because of the bending, and I thought maybe this cable would be better. That's probably why. But I've not had enough use out of these to say whether or not they're great, whether there's wearing or anything like that. But those are they. Then I gratefully discovered a Knit Pro Symphony. Now, I don't know how many of you know about Knit Pro Symphony, but for me, they are spot on. I absolutely adore these needles. There is one drawback to these needles, well, three. There are drawbacks, but honestly, my cart, if you had seen me sort it and all of that, you would have seen that I've got little pouches that go on the side of the cart, and they are filled with these needles because I love them. I do absolutely love them. So they are, again, Knit Pro Symphony. They are wooden needles. This was my first dabble, if you will, into wooden needles. I love them. I love the way they feel when you're knitting. The yarn tends to hug the wood a bit better, despite the fact that it is shiny wood. So here they are, in case you haven't seen them before. These are the Knit Pro Symphony. These are the fixed needles. I'm still on fixed needles, but you know, we'll get there. So these are the fixed circular needles. I have many sizes of these. They are absolutely wonderful. I cannot swear by them enough. They are fairly budget friendly. Yeah, I really like these needles. There are drawbacks. I did mention that. The drawbacks, these tips are finer. What size needles are these? 4mm. I do use them a lot. Sometimes if you use them a lot, the tips will wear slightly. So you'll get little grooves and stuff like that. But it's not enough to make me stop using them like the Addy ones that I showed you earlier. They are absolutely lovely. The colour's stunning. The wood is stunning, beautiful. There's no snags or anything like that. The only drawbacks is the needles have the, I don't think I've got a demonstration. The needles usually have a white written on them in like white print, the size of the needle. But no, there's no remnant or anything. I've got something else that I can show you in a bit. They used to have the size on the needle, printed on the needle, but because of excessive use and excessive use, that wears off. So that is why I will grab the packet. That is why I keep all of my circular needles in their packets when I'm done, because the packet will tell me exactly what needle it is. So it'll tell me the millimetre. So this one's a 4mm, and it also tells me how long the needle is. That's needle and cord. So that'll be the full length of it. But yeah, love them. Oh, and the other thing is the cable. I mean, it's got memory. It remembers where it was. And because I keep my needles rolled up like that, it remembers that. So they're an absolute nightmare to deal with. However, I have heard that if you dip them in warm water and then stretch them out, they will lose their memory, apparently. I haven't tried it myself because I don't know why I've not tried it myself, to be honest, but I haven't. But that is something to be mindful of. They are a little... Cable's not the best, but love these needles. Absolutely love them. And I still use them. I've got them. In fact, that's what I'm using here for my socks. I can't grab it. That's what I'm using for my socks here. I think this is my new needle on socks. Is this one worn? No, that one's fine. So yeah, I love them. Absolutely love them. Right, let me just wrap it back up. There we go. Then I thought, I really like Knit Pro. I want to try a couple more of their needles. So I did. I then moved on to a metal needle, which was the Knit Pro Zing. It's very shiny, isn't it? I can't, there we go, the Knit Pro Zing. So I moved on to these. I think I've only got 2 of these actually. I say moved on to, I haven't really. I've only got 2, I think, of these. Now, I loved the way they looked. So here they are, they look proper smart. Just a fully metal needle. They've got the lovely silver tips, silver base, and then they've got a lovely colour in the middle. Now, these do have the number printed on again, the size of the needle, not the cable, just the needle. So that's probably going to wipe off at some point. And I think the cable, no, that's just a mark, isn't it? I thought the cable had the length written on it, but it doesn't. I can't see it anyway. But I really liked the way these looked. They feel great. They've got a lovely weight to them. They're not too heavy. They're lovely actually. I really, really like these. The tips are fantastic. They're not sharp. I'm not too fussed about sharp needle tips. But I really liked these. So if you like if you like metal needles with a little bit of weight to them, give these a go. They're really good. But again, you've got the cable swirly issue. But yes, I really liked these. So at the minute, we're kind of at a period where I'm kind of testing the water, kind of getting a feel for what circular needles I really liked. Obviously the Symphony I loved, but I wanted to try and find a metal needle that kind of suited. So then I tried the Knit Pro Nova, and I'm not as enamoured with these, to be honest. I'm just going to unravel it, hang on. This one, bear in mind, is huge because I bought it for a rather large project. So as you can see, very, very thick needles. I think they are 8mm, these. Again, we've got that very kind of blunted tip, which is fabulous. Yeah, really liked using these needles. They were great. Again, we've got the swirly cable, but you know, it kind of comes with the territory, I think, with fixed circular needles, most of them anyway. Budget, I would say. But yeah, I like these, but they're a little bit hollow, and I wasn't sure about that because these ones feel like they've got a bit more to them. So I wasn't quite sure if it was just because of, I don't know. I wasn't quite sure. They didn't win me over, basically, but they were great for the job at hand. So that's the Nova. I think I've only got 2 pairs of these, and that was just because I needed very large sizes, and I think these were actually quite cheap in the large sizes than the other ones. That's probably why. Now, we're on to something a little cheeky. I didn't know this existed, and when it arrived, I was like, what have I done? I don't know what's going on right now. So, these were a mistake. It was Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, my first ever one back in 2021, and I thought I need some serious circular needles. So I thought I'd treat myself to a pair of circular needles that would be specific for Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So I treated myself to these Knit Pro Cubics. It was a mistake because I didn't know what it meant. Having received them, I actually really like them. So if you know what these are, you know what's coming. But if you don't, say hello to square needles. These are square. I don't know if you can see that too well. Probably not showing it too well at all. They are square. They are not circular. The needle is actually a square. Can you see that? There's angles and it's not really showing very well. I can't get this off, can I? Kind of. So they are square. That's, you know, they're not circular. Let me grab a Symphony. So if I scooch a bit closer, hold that up. Can you see the angles compared to this one? So if I hold it this way, you should be able to see that this one here is actually square. Yeah, I was like, I've made a mistake. I didn't realise they did square needles, but they do square needles. So my first thought was, oh no, what am I going to do? How is this going to work? But it obviously works because they exist. So I thought I'll give it a go. And I actually loved using them. They were absolutely fantastic. They grip the yarn really well. and my grip on them is fantastic because it just settles onto your hand so nicely. My mind was blown. In fact, I would probably buy a interchangeable set of cubics if it exists. Let me know if it exists, because mind was blown. It really was. The only downside that I have come across is this bit here. Hang on, let me put that one down. Is this bit here where it joins the metal. As you can see, because it's going from a square needle into a round connector, they've tried to shape it, but they've missed it a bit. So there's a step. I don't know if I can show this very well. There's a step here, just where it joins. I don't know if you can see the resistance. There's a step. So that's not great because it can sometimes catch. They've done their best and they've made it as smoother transition as it can be, really. I've not noticed much snagging, if I'm going to be honest. Not a lot, but that is just something to be mindful of with these. They're fantastic. I couldn't believe it. They were so much fun. Very similar again to the Knit Pro needles. The size is printed onto the needle. As you can see, that is wearing off now. And the cable is a little bit wily. Once you have a project on it that is huge, like a Stephen West project, that tends to take care of itself. It's when you're starting out and you've got like about that size on your needle and you've got all the rest of the cable just getting up in everybody's business. It's not fun, but you can always start off with a circumference smaller, like a cable that's shorter, and then build up to a cable that's bigger. I just go a little bit wild sometimes and cast on with silly long needles because that's just me. But yeah, if you've not tried them, try them out. You might be surprised. I was pleasantly surprised. And I now use these for my Stephen West mystery knit-alongs. I used them last year and I'll use them again this year in October. Very excited. So yeah, those are cubics. Amazing. Who knew a square needle would work? It was quite a revelation. If you've used them, let me know. Let me know what you think of them. Let me know if you found a interchangeable needle set of the cubics, because I'd be interested in that. Definitely interested in that. Right, we are on to the final evolution of my knitting journey through knitting needles, and this might not be a surprise to anybody, but yes, I treated myself. Now, I watched many YouTubers rave about this kit. This is the ChiaoGoo red lace interchangeable knitting set. You hear a lot of YouTubers rave about it, and yeah, it's kind of one of those things that you think, is it really that good? Yes it is. It is pricey. It is definitely pricey, but having said that, the amount of symphony needles that I have purchased over the years probably would amount to one of these, at least. But having said that, again, the Symphony Fix needles, they're like a couple of quid, depending on the size. Again, I'm based in the UK, so I don't know how if any of these needles are in fact available anywhere else other than the UK. I think they are. I know that these are. And I think Knit Pro are as well, but I'm not entirely sure. Probably Addy, probably Drops. They probably all are, but it just depends upon how readily available they are as to the pricing of them. But ChiaoGoo, this is an interchangeable needle set. I'm going to open it up. Let me just get rid of. I'm going to try not to drop them everywhere like I did the last time I showed them. So here is the set. I have these are the small needles, and they are ranging from 2.75 to 5mm on this side. Now these work with the smaller cables. I don't have any of those because they are all in use. And then on this side are the large. So these would be the small, these would be the large. And the reason why they work with different cables, it's just the connector. So I'll show you that connector there. It's just the size of that for connecting onto the needle. So the big ones range from a 5.5 to a 10mm. All the sizes that I'm giving are going to be UK millimeters because that's how my brain works. I haven't quite figured out how that correlates to a US size. Again, because I am British and I do go on UK sizing, it's quite difficult for my brain to work that out. I will get there. I will make myself multi-country lingual in needle sizes. I will try. But anyway, this is the set. It came with 3 of the small cables, 3 of the large cables, and it also comes with all your little bits to connect the cables to said needles. It also has a nice little pouch on the front, and you get this. Now this is highly, I have many of these, but these are always useful. It's nice to have it on your case as well, because let me show you one of the needles. I'll show you a big one actually, that makes more sense because you're going to see it a lot better. Right, so the Chalgu needles have written on them, there, you can't really see, there you go, you can kind of see that, the size. So I believe that would be, yep, so it tells me, the L up here tells me which cable, then it's obviously Chalgu, and then if I can get the shine to stop shining, we had it a minute ago, there we go, so it says 15, there we go, it says 15, and then 10mm, so I guess 15, I'm just going to double check, because it does tell me on the set, the 15, US 15, and millimeters of 10. So that's what that needle is. But I don't know if that wears off from use. Anyone who has this set, let me know if that wears off. But either way, the set comes with one of these, which is great because this, if you just poke your needle through, it tells you what size your needle is. It doesn't go through there, so it's definitely not that one. So this tells me it is the 10. And these are extremely useful for all these circular needles that I've got that the things have worn off on. I can just poke it through until it actually pokes through, spot on, and it tells me that that's a 4mm, which is correct. So these are extremely useful, very, very useful. But this set, honestly, I absolutely love it. Now, the most important thing about this set are the cables. The needles aren't too weighty. They are quite, they sound hollow to me, but they feel amazing. The yarn just glides over and it's just amazing to work with. I really, really enjoy these needles, really enjoy them. So the other reason why I enjoy them so much is the cable. And I think you can buy them as fixed needles, but I'm not sure. So as you can see, proper wound up like my other needles. If I unwind this, it barely has any memory at all. So if I bring back one of these and show you, ooh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But this one, no, none of that. Just get started, just get going. Absolutely amazing. And I think that's because it's got a metal cord that runs through the cord itself. They're quite weighty compared to other cables, which is fine. And honestly, they're absolutely amazing. And I'm so, so happy that I have this set now. And I'm also happy that I went through the journey that I went through to get here, because I do have a lot of needles, but they're all useful and I do like them, apart from this Addy one. So this was the Addy Premium with the ends. Yeah, I'm still, that one might have to go. But I'm so pleased with the journey. It's been very exciting. I've learned a lot. And, you know, it's all about learning what works best for you, really, at the end of the day. Because a lot of people, as I say, do rave about this set. I was apprehensive because I do tend towards metal needles. Sorry, not metal. I do tend towards wooden needles just because of how it holds the fabric. It just holds the stitches so much nicer, and it feels nice. Apologies, that was rather loud, wasn't it? There we go. I knew it was going to happen at some point. It nearly went in my drink. Yeah, so I much prefer to work with wooden just because of how it feels. But this set, when I got it and I started using it, actually, it does hold the material really nicely. It doesn't stick, so to speak, but it kind of holds the stitches nicely, better than say these, for example, because these are quite shiny. Whereas these are a little bit brushed, I think that's why they hold the stitches a bit better. They're slightly brushed from what I the impression I get. I mean, what do I know? I'm just assuming here, but I really like them. Really pleased that I got them. But again, it's one of those things where you need to weigh up what works best for you and like your budget to see whether or not it's something you want to try. But that's where I am at currently. Mostly use my Chalgo needles, although it doesn't look like it because only 2 are missing. But I am using all of the small cables because you can connect the cables to each other to make them longer. You've got some little connectors. I don't know where they are. Oh, they're in here. You've got some little connectors in your little bag so that you can connect the cables to each other, make them a bit longer. So that's what I've done. So I just need to free up the project so that I can actually use the needles on other projects. I'm just thinking, yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. But I still use all my other needles as well. So, I mean, as you can see, I still use them. To be fair, this is a 2.5mm needle, so I don't have that in this set. They probably do the ends, so you could probably have a little look. You could buy some more cables, you could buy some more ends. Sky's the limit, everyone. Sky's the limit, really. But yeah, that's basically my knitting journey through needles. Chalgo needles are where I'm at the minute, alongside my faithful Knit Pro Symphonies. And yeah, my cubics, which I use on my Stephen West knit along. So you'll see these in October probably, unless he's changed the gauge of his projects, like the needles that he uses. Oh, the only other thing that I do have for knitting are cable needles. There's nothing fancy about these. This set is, again, Addy Premium. It's a bit bent on the top, there we go. Addy Premium, so it's just a cable needle. And then because I lost my cable needles during the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along in 2022, I lost my cable needle. I've just treated myself to a little set off Amazon. It's just 2 different sizes for cable needling. But yeah, that's basically, if I hold up what I actually use currently, Chalgo, Symphony, Knit Pro Symphony, Knit Pro Cubics, and my cable needles. There we go. So that is majority of mostly what I use for my knitting now. So I've come a decent way. There isn't much in terms of switching it up or anything like that. However, I do have a question for you all, because I would really love a set of wooden a set similar to Chalgo, but I would like a wooden interchangeable needle set. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't done too much research on it, but I kind of have a feeling that Knit Pro Symphony might be a thing. I know they do a very similar thing in the Tunisian crochet hooks, but I'm not sure. Let me know if you have any wooden interchangeable needle sets. At the minute, budget is whatever. I'm open to all budgets at this point in time. I'm just looking for a nice circular needle, fixed circular needle set for interchangeable, sorry, not fixed. Oh my gosh, it's too many words. Let's start that again. I am looking for a set of wooden interchangeable knitting needles. So if you know of any or have any that you absolutely adore, please let me know. Preferably ones that don't wear too quick on the tips. I do get that they will wear because all knitting needles wear. So that's fine. But yeah, just let me know of any. And if you've tried any other knitting needles that you think, you didn't mention this one, maybe you should give it a go, let me know in the comments below. I'm open to try many things, and hopefully you've seen something that kind of intrigues you a little bit. But yeah, that is everything for this week's video. As I say, I am back next week, so you will have a weekly video as normal. So my weekly podcast will be back for 1 week only. Well, 1 week until after. And then part 2 of this little mini series will be out the following week. And that will be my crochet hook journey. So hopefully, if you like crochet hooks and stuff like that, you'll come along and watch. It'll be similar format again, just going through it in a little journey. But yeah, that's all for my knitting needles. So I hope you have an absolutely amazing rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.